All right, so picture this. You have been preparing, you've been working and making sure that you're ready for that disaster that could hit in your area, whether that's an earthquake or a dirty bomb or you name it type of disaster. And you go to get into your preps and your food preps and you go to get out that rice, that beans, those things that you've been storing only to find out the bugs have gotten into it, it's spoiled, it's gone rotten, and all that hard work was for nothing, and you're actually at square zero. That's worst case scenario, right? You need to be ready for the long-term storage, especially of your rice, to make sure that when you go to dig into those preps, they're there, they're ready, you have what you expect to have on hand. In this episode, we're going to dig in and talk about long-term rice storage to give you peace of mind and make sure that your preps are what you expected them to be, and they're there and ready for you. Coming up. All right, guys, so before we get into the nitty-gritty of storage methods, let's first talk about what factors affect the shelf life of this versatile grain. So we're talking rice today. And you may say, rice? Why are we talking about rice? Well, exactly what I talked about in that intro. You need to make sure that your rice is up to standards and you can have peace of mind, not have to think about it, so that when you go to get it out, it's ready for you. So the reality is moisture content and oxygen exposure, they're the things, those are the factors that play that significant role in determining how long your rice will remain fresh, will remain edible. Okay, so let's talk about this. Popular options, you see some popular options on your screen right there. White rice, and we're talking specifically about jasmine or basmati. Jasmine's a really popular one. That's my favorite. They tend to have the longer shelf life than the whole grain options. We're talking brown rice, wild rice, if they're all stored properly. And this is because it's due to the higher oil content that happen to be in whole grains, and it causes it to go rancid more quickly. So proper preparation is key to ensuring that your rice, it stays, your stockpile, it stays ready for you, it stays fresh, it stays on hand for exactly what you need. And so it's important that you pick the right kind of rice at the front end, and then you clean it, you make sure that you dry it, and you remove impurities, remove any insects. Insects can be in rice, and any excess moisture, so that when you go to store it, it's set up for success from the beginning. So you want to dry it out, you want to package it right, and you want to package it into food grade plastic buckets. Let's look at that. So food grade plastic buckets, that's pretty key, right? Or you want to also think about some mylar storage options or vacuum sealed containers, and you want to remove as much air as possible and add oxygen absorber packets. And all of these things together, that's what's going to extend the life of that rice and minimize the oxidation. Okay, so here on this channel, you don't have to take my word for it. We look at what we can explore within Reddit threads and really help to give you the confidence that you're learning from the prepper community, the wisdom of crowdsourced prepper wisdom. There's a lot of preppers out there, a lot of people that have gone before us. We want to learn from them, right? And so let's look at what the Reddit threads have to say on this subject. So we, on all of our blog posts, you can find us at prepping.pro. We're going to dig into these topics, and we're going to give Reddit especially space to weigh in. This comes from the very popular subreddit Preppers, and we looked at 3 threads: white rice, the best long-term food item, how to store white rice, and rice storage long-term. And then we read through the 193 comments in those 3 Reddit threads to get some bottom lines. And you can check out the infographic on the website on the linked article, but I'm going to boil it down for you here right now. Okay, so storage techniques and preference that you find in these Reddit threads. Here is everything that was said. Some of these, not so helpful. And some of them, like, some people talk about, like, where is it in there? Dry ice. That's an interesting one. I'm not going to be trying that myself. Or we see down here sometimes there's nitrogen packing. Some of these are really good advice, like avoiding light exposure. I don't know about this idea of storing in the original bags. Not something that you want to do. And that's for the obvious reasons we're talking about today. Your rice is going to go rancid. It's going to go bad. don't mess with leaving in the original packaging. But what rises to the top, again, is the prepper wisdom that we want to draw out of these threads. And that's these two things at the very top. And that is Mylar bags with O2 absorbers. My video is covering the top of this top line, but it edges up towards near 100% in terms of popularity. And then you've got food grade buckets underneath that. These two things as your top storage techniques that are preferred by preppers in the threads. I would agree with that, and I think that's the common thing that you're going to see as the clear consensus is that Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, and I'll go back to these again, Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers and then stored in the food grade buckets, putting those things together, that's what is the top preferred idea. Now, let's look at one more trend that we see coming out of the Reddit threads. And this is the reality that we see some effectiveness of these storage methods really showing up over time. And so it's at the very beginning, we're going to see, hey, everything's kind of similar. Not a lot of time's passed, and so the storage methods are going to be pretty comparable. And especially even if you fast forward that out about a year, it's going to be about the same. But now, if we start to go 5 years, 10 years, which you want to be able to prep in such a way that you can have 30 years of prep time with your prep so that you can know that if something should come up, I'm ready. And my preps are going to be there for me. So what you see on your screen here is the reality that these options begin to separate. And especially at the very bottom, the idea of glass jars. Some people love the idea of keeping their preps in glass jars. That has the least return rate. So you fast forward over 30 years and you're going to lose over 20% of the quality retention of that rice in that time frame. So we see out of the Reddit threads. Now, at the very top, the winner was Mylar bags with O2 absorbers. So we'll go back to Mylar bags with O2 absorbers, right? These are going to keep that quality over time. And so have the least degradation. We've also got vacuum sealing and food grade buckets. Again, what I have seen rise to the top in these threads is that hitting up those Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers and then also including that in the food grade buckets is going to give us the best return on our investment. And so here's the deal though, regardless of the storage method you may choose, it's the critical piece is maintaining the right environment conditions at the same time. So you're going to want to aim for a cool temperature of about 40 degrees Fahrenheit to 70 degrees Fahrenheit and humidity levels below 15%. That's going to keep that rice at the optimal quality. You need to use like a dehumidifier in the space where you keep your preps and desiccant packs. That could also be needed. Another thing you should consider and think about is pest control. And so you need to store your rice in those sealed containers for sure. That's a big key piece of that. But you're also going to need to regularly inspect it for insects or potentially even rodent activity. Just a reality that we have to deal with. So there are various options for long-term rice storage, and some methods have become proven more effective. You've seen that just in this short video. And airtight containers are for sure going to rise to the top. And so, as I've already mentioned, the combination of those two factors of the Mylar bags with the buckets are going to be the most key combination. Now, other ideas did rise to the surface in the threads. We saw people talking about freezing. Some talking about the importance of vacuum sealing and canning even. But each of those have their pros and cons. I'm not going to get into that in this video. I'm going to just stick with the most important piece. And so one more thing I did want to highlight in this video is that you can actually extend the shelf life of the rice beyond the recommended dates on the bags. So every bag that you're going to get or the way that you get that rice is going to have a recommended consume by date or sell by date. And you can actually extend the shelf life of the rice beyond that date. And that's what we're talking about in this video is you setting up the conditions for that rice to last as long as possible. So even with those best storage practices, your rice, it's going to eventually end. It's going to eventually reach its peak and then end its recommended shelf life period. But if you maintain it properly and you take precautions against the insects, the rodents, those sorts of things, you could extend that rice beyond the recommended dates. So Keep an eye on your stored rice for any signs of spoilage, such as odors, discoloration, or insect activity. And if the rice always appears and smells fresh, it may still be safe to consume, but exercise caution and good judgment. So let's just hit on a couple tips to boil this down in best practices. You're going to want to regularly inspect your rice in long-term storage and practice the FIFO method, first in, first out. Make sure that you do that so that you're ordering that rice, so that you're consuming the rice that you purchased the furthest back in time first. You want that at the front, and then the rice that you've most recently purchased, you're going to want to put at the back of your preps in your pile. Keep detailed records. Clipboard doesn't hurt. Keep some way that you can keep track of that, whether that's electronically on a spreadsheet or ideally a paper and clipboard is going to be the most sustainable no matter what may come. Store the rice in a cool, dry, dark location away from sunlight and heat sources. Use airtight containers. Practice proper pest control. Label all the containers. So that'll help you to keep that FIFO on track with the right dates and additional notes. And then consider, here's the last tip I want to have for you, is to store multiple types of rice for a variety of nutritional balance needs. So some rice may last longer than others, and then different rice has different nutritional value, so consider storing some different kinds. Okay, so long-term rice, it is a vital aspect of emergency preps, and you're going to make sure that you have it so that you have that food security. And if you follow these best practices we've covered today in this video, you can ensure that your rice stockpile remains edible, remains fresh, and it's there for you. It's ready when you need it most. So as we've hit on this video, proper preparation, optimal storage conditions, vigilant monitoring, these are the keys to make sure that the quality and longevity of your rice is everything that it needs to be. And so if you've got these strategies in place, you'll have a reliable source and you'll be able to get this rice when you need it. And also, like I talked about at the very beginning of the video, ultimately, this gives you the peace of mind that you have what you need, that your family is going to have the sustenance that it needs when that time may come. And so be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel. We'd love to hear from you, by the way, too. So if you've got some way that you prep and store rice that is different from this, or hey, use the same strategy and share your experience, we'd love to hear about that in the comments. And then make sure to check out the link below for the full blog article. You can see the full infographic and all of the details on how we have dug into this subject on Reddit and brought this prep content to you here on this video. So until next time, stay prepared, preppers.